Howdy and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Today's subject is the Frog Blenheim 1. This is a 50s issue of the kit from specifically 1959. Frog had started out by making some of the very first plastic model kits pre-World War II. Their first one was, one of the first ones was also a Blenheim that was made in 1939. And it came in a full box with paints. Each individual piece was put separate, tied down inside the box. It was a spectacular kit, as you can see here. Of course, with the war starting, making plastic model kits for kids was not priority. And Frog went on to start making recognition models for the British military. The 1/72nd scale that Frog had established as their standard turned out to be the standard that they ended up using for the recognition models, and as a result, it's probably the main influence that resulted in 1/72nd scale being one of the standard scales that we still see today. So Frog made a number of recognition models for the British military. They were mainly made out of wood, although supposedly there were some of the early plastic, possibly acetate plastic that was being used at the time. On the ones that were made by Frog, on the bottom of the aircraft would be the label for the reference stores numbers, and then also for the type of aircraft it was, the name of the aircraft. And there was a very small little Frog trademark logo, just like this, would be added at the end of the name. So after the war, Frog started manufacturing plastic model kits again, and they initially started out making a lot of the contemporary jets, but then they started going back and remaking some of the earlier kits that they had made pre-war, and the Blenheim is one of those. So let's get into this kit and take a look at it. So you start out with pretty nice box art. It's done in some muted colors as compared to some of the US made ones in the 50s, which had these bright lithograph prints with really bright colors to really pop off the store shelves. But Frog was using printed directly onto the cardboard, which gives it partially part of the muted look, but just kind of the more subdued, maybe, English or British style, not as flamboyant as the American style would be. But here we've got Frog, and for those of you who don't know, Frog stood for flies right off the ground. Their earlier kits pre-war were were flying kits, and you could just wind them up, set them down on the ground, and they'd take off. So here we've got on the side, we've got the rendition of the box art from the top, and some information about what was in here. Interesting, they do list a tube of special polystyrene, cement, and paint, which is not included in this kit, and I have not seen that included in any of the kits from this era of this boxing style. So not sure if those all disappeared or if it actually did not happen in actual production. So on the other side, they've got an image of the clear stand that was included, something that is rarely included in kits today. And then finally we have the end with the catalog number, again the name. On this end, you have the information regarding Frog's parent company, International Model Aircraft, as part of the Lines Brothers group of companies, and again a nice rendition of their logo. So open up the box here and take a look at the kit inside. So here you see it was molded in black plastic, a very smooth, shiny plastic, which is different from what you see in a lot of American kits. And then here's the fuselage sides, or fuselage halves. You can see it's got what was common for the time of molded on markings. Very minimal amount of other detail. Got very deep, almost Grand Canyon size if it was scale, panel lines. You do have little, very subtle representation of the fabric covering of the control surfaces, but a fairly simple kit. Inside you see zero detailing inside of the aircraft itself. Now we'll move on to the wings. You've got upper and lower pieces. Again, you've got the roundel on there molded in, and the aircraft number is molded in as well. Large surface area for gluing together, and the locator pins are actually in the middle as opposed to the edge, which you see on a lot of kits nowadays. So what was nice about these actually was that you did actually get a fairly thin trailing edge, which is unusual for this era. There's the other wing parts. And there's a sprue. One of the props is still connected on there. You get very simple landing gear, a solid tire, tail wheel. And what is interesting on this as well, I want to point out again on the wing underside, that there is no wheel well for those gears to retract in. There's the holes there to locate the landing gear parts, but there's no actual wheel well here. So if you're going to be building this with gear up, I guess you'd have to like fill in these holes in some way. But if you had gear down, there'd be no opening for the wheel well. Here we have the engine cowlings and the engines. Very, very simple rendition. Just little cylinders with little scribe marks to maybe, the cooling sleeves that are on there. You do have the cowl flaps, which are molded and slightly, open, but yet they're solid on the back. So not a very good rendition of that, but very, very, very simplistic. And one of the propellers. Your tailplanes are a one-piece tailplane. Again, very simple rendition of the fabric covering on the control surface. And then you've got the Frog stand, done in clear plastic with the Frog logo. Then here's their canopy, clear part. Very, very poorly molded. You can see a lot of blemishes, very, very thick. You can't see through this hardly at all, which is probably a good thing since there is zero cockpit detail in this aircraft at all. So maybe not seeing inside would be a good thing. But shape-wise, it's actually pretty good shape, and it does have raised lines on it, or raised framing, to make it a little bit easier to paint the framing on there, but lots of flash around the edge and a very, very thick part. And here's the only representation they give you for the dorsal turret. It was a retractable turret, and this appears to be the retracted position of it. Again, a very thick piece of plastic, not very clear, very cloudy, a lot of blemishes in it, but it does have some very slight framing on there. And we'll get to the decal sheet. Very simple amount of decals. You've got roundels. You've got the serial number for the specific aircraft. This aircraft actually, the K7037, was the first production aircraft from Bristol for the Blenheim Mark I. So it was the first production aircraft that ended up going to number 114 Squadron. And here's an image of the aircraft when it came off the production line. Sadly, this aircraft did not last very long. In fact, it crashed prior to the start of World War II, killing all the crew. I'll provide a link in the description for a page that describes the incident and the crew that was killed in the description section, so you can further read if you'd like. But finish up on the decals. You can see the blue showing through the yellow ring, and the registration is slightly off, but you did get the Bristol Blenheim name on there that you could put onto the front of the stand right there. So that was kind of a neat little added thing for you to be able to do. And on the back is directions on how to apply the decals. And then finally, we've got the instruction sheet. Very cheap paper. Starts out with an exploded view of the aircraft, and then it has the assembly instructions step by step down here. So there's no images during the construction part, but you're supposed to just use, I guess, the exploded view to see where everything was supposed to go. On the back side, there's a little information about the Blenheim itself, and then there's also a painting guide showing you how the camouflage should be applied. They did not call out any specific makers or numbers for the paints, just green, brown, black, very simple. And then there's also mention about additional frog models at the end. So there you have it, a fairly simple kit and a interesting subject matter from across the pond from Frog. So Frog only reissued this kit one other time, and that was through their Triang line, and that was issued in 1963. And then later on, Frog made a whole new mold for the Blenheim in 1969, and they ended up that mold ended up getting sent basically around the world when Frog folded in the 70s. It's reissued by quite a number of other manufacturers all around the world, and this is readily available in a lot of the vintage model markets and stores that sell vintage model kits. But this particular style of Frog kit is fairly rare in the United States. So hope you enjoyed seeing this unique little kit from Frog, and have yourselves a great day.